2016, almost a decade ago. This was the last time the Detroit Red Wings skated on a sheet of playoff hockey ice. For the Red Wings, the 2024-25 NHL season was supposed to be a year of continued progress, a stepping stone towards playoff contention. Instead, it's become a season of frustrating inconsistencies and ultimately disappointment. After showing promise in previous years, the Wings have stumbled out of the gate, leaving fans disillusioned and questioning the direction of this franchise. At the time of this recording, the Wings are 14-18-4, 3-6-1 in their last 10 games, and sit 28th in the league standings. While the season did begin with optimism, this young core built through the Yzerplan continues to take steps in the wrong direction. With all of these inconsistencies, a frustrating string of losses, it feels like this team can't recover from their own mistakes. So today, let's talk about the Detroit Red Wings, their unexpected and disappointing start to the year, and a recent change to the team's staff that will either make or break their chances of making the playoffs. Hockeytown is in shambles to start the year. Now, earlier in the season, I had made a video talking about the direction of the Red Wings and how they were destined for mediocrity if something didn't change within the organization. They lack a strong defense and overall culture and effort. Recently, they decided to even fire their head coach because they didn't like the direction of how everything was being led from within. Now, Todd McLellan will be the replacement for this team with the expectations that he can pick up all of the pieces and sort of get things back on track. So today, let's talk about all of these changes for the Red Wings and their season so far to see if we can fully understand what's happening with this organization. Now, before we get into this video, about 90% of the people watching have not subscribed to the channel yet. I have a sub goal of 20,000 that I know we can reach soon. So if you guys want to continue supporting me and watch more fun hockey content like this, go ahead and hit that like button now and subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, let's talk about the Detroit Red Wings. The overall decision to part ways with Lalonde, while difficult, was ultimately a decision that was just based on the team's underperformance. Lalonde was brought in to help the team recapture the success from the past, but his tenure was just disappointing. His best year was last season, where he nearly brought the Wings to the postseason, but with an organization that's as massive as Detroit, that's just not enough to get things done. Lalonde's final record with the Red Wings was 89, 86, and 23, and for the most part, his departure has made fans happy based on the team's play as of late. Now in comes his replacement, veteran coach Todd McLellan, who carries a wealth of experience and a reputation for demanding structure and accountability, something that a lot of people feel the Detroit Red Wings need with their lack of consistency. McLellan had successful tenures with both the Sharks and the Kings, having 9 playoff appearances as a head coach, and even was an assistant coach with the Red Wings way back when. Both Lalonde and McLellan are defensive-minded coaches, but I feel like that's where their similarities end. The biggest difference in my eyes is that Lalonde would take away from the offense to support his defensive structures, whereas McLellan can effectively employ both without taking one away from the other. I feel like he's much better at setting a culture, and for a team that's grappling with underlying issues, this should hopefully allow them to play harder and put forth more effort each night. Maybe that will be a change that fixes everything, and maybe not. But either way, a change was ultimately necessary because this season felt like it was already over and we're not even halfway through. Coaching is always the first thing to blame when a team is struggling. And while I do believe Lalonde is a great head coach, I just think that McLellan fits this current state of the Red Wings a little bit better. Now earlier I talked about how Lalonde would take away from the offense to improve the defense. And I think that the first thing McLellan needs to do is completely scratch that, because the Red Wings' 5v5 play has been despicable to start the year, ranking 29th in goals for per game, which just isn't going to get the job done when your defense isn't able to be as strong as some of the more elite blue lines in the league. So let's quickly talk about the 5v5 play and how McLellan will actually benefit the overall offensive play of this team. Looking at the offensive numbers, the Red Wings shooting percentage has dropped from 2023-24 to this season, going from 11.58% last year to 10.2% this year. They currently are second fewest in goals during 5v5 play and are relying way too much on their power play, which in of itself has been pretty solid to start the year, but with special teams fluctuating, it's not something you should rely on. While players like Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat, and Dylan Larkin have done a sufficient job offensively this year, the rest of the lineup just hasn't produced enough to keep this team afloat. Overall, their reliance on older players like Patrickkane and Vladimir Tarasenko to produce at an elite level just isn't sustainable, and their lack of offensive effort has just put them in a poor position nearly every game. Flipping over to the other side of the puck, defensively, this team has been equally inconsistent. And outside of Seider and the potential of Edvinsson, they just don't have enough on their blue line for the offense to not chip in, which has taken away from the team's ability to score because they are overhelping on defense to make up for that gap. The team struggles with gap control, allowing way too many high danger scoring chances. A lack of communication and breakdowns in coverage lead to a significant number of goals against, and they just aren't able to outscore a lot of these flaws. Quickly, just to touch on it because it was such a big storyline for them last year, goaltending hasn't been problematic for the Red Wings. Talbot has brought some stability and has somehow put up a .912 save percentage and 2.79 goals against average, but only has 6 wins in 18 games played, which kind of tells you the story of this offense and defense and how they're not able to keep high danger chances out of the net, but also aren't putting the puck in on the other side of the ice either. Issues go beyond individual performances with this team. And earlier I talked a little bit about the Red Wings lacking what I call a true superstar, the Jack Eichels or Alexander Barkovs of the world. And while I do like their stars, the DeBrincats, Larkins, and Raymonds of the world, I think they're all great players. I think in order to have success with players in this category, you need to build around them with a strong supporting cast. And that's just not something I think the Red Wings have done a great job with. And that's where we need to start pointing the finger at Stevie Y again and this whole Yzerplan experiment. Is it mediocre? Is it not doing what he said it was going to do? And are they ever going to be able to fully reach their potential under the direction of this GM? Let's talk a little bit about Stevie Y and maybe criticize this plan, because I feel like at this point, we need to start seeing a few results because some of these players are entering their primes, and if you're not going to be able to support them with, say, another star or a better supporting cast, I don't think we're ever going to see the Red Wings find success under the current structure that they've built. The Yzerplan is something that deserves a lot of praise, but at the same time, I feel like it deserves a fair share of criticism as well. Overall, the Yzerplan focuses on a long-term rebuilding strategy that uses drafting and development as its main focus. Now, at some points it's shown glimpses of success, but the prolonged absence from playoff contention is likely attributed to not drafting a true superstar level talent. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the way that the Yzerplan has avoided a harsh rebuild for this organization, but like we talked about a little bit earlier, the lack of a game-changing player, the Eichels, Barkovs, Panarins of the world, not players like McKinnon or McDavid because those are few and far between, has really kind of hurt the Red Wings and their overall rebuild. Now sure, like we talked about, they have players like Raymond and Seider, but specifically I feel like they just don't have enough to really make them a true cup contender. Looking back at Yzerman's drafting, he's not going to hit on every pick. No GM does. And there are still some picks, including the 3 first-rounders in the last 2 drafts, that have had some time to make an impact. But after you've invested this much time in a rebuild, the amount, or rather lack thereof, of homegrown picks hitting is just starting to become concerning for me. You also have to hope to hit on draft picks beyond the first round. And to this point, only 3 of Yzerman's post-first round picks have made it to the NHL, combining for a grand total of 27 total games. Overall, I'm not a hater of the Yzerplan. I think there's some great ideas here, but when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't been successful, but for some reason still continues to get praised just based on Yzerman's past. I just think we need to start taking a closer look at this, especially if this season continues to go downhill. If the Yzerplan can't be fixed with a new head coach, then at this point I'm starting to think that maybe the Red Wings need to look at their GM and start thinking about maybe a replacement in that area. And I'm never someone to call for a job, but I just think that at this point there's too much talent on this team to really kind of just throw away season after season just to say, hey, we're going to keep drafting and hopefully hit on a player that can just change the entire direction of this franchise. Now, I know I've been harsh on the Yzerplan, but I just feel like we need to start questioning some of the decisions that are being made in Detroit, especially given the fact that this team is almost 10 years removed from a playoff run, and For an original six market, that's kind of problematic, especially when you've invested this much time and money into a rebuild. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the Red Wings right now? Do you think that this head coaching change will be enough to get them back on track? Or do you think that there's something else holding them from reaching their true potential within their organization? Maybe it's a roster makeup thing or a general manager problem. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below as always, and let's discuss the Detroit Red Wings. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Again, thank you guys as always for watching. I will see you guys in the next episode.